Can you believe it, guys? We are in webinar 6 already. I don't even know how many months it's been that we've been on this journey together, but I am certainly loving it. I'm certainly learning so much. And of course, it is my absolute pleasure to be your host on this webinar, along with my esteemed and learned colleague, looking lovely as usual. Portia, good morning to you. Do you want to say hello?
Hi guys. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, I know it's webinar 6. We've got 3 webinars to go.
Unbelievable to think that we are so far already. And so we're going to talk about quite a few things today. Let me just go back to what the topic of today is. We're going to be talking about credit management, savings and investments, mental health, and we're going to touch on financial scams as well. But before that, let's do a recap of where we are in the journey. And so you'll know that today we are at webinar 6, that's the topic there. And we have just 2 more webinars to go before the big one, which is webinar 9, where we're going to be doing those business presentations. So the next one that we can look forward to in webinar 7 is on the 4th of November, where we'll talk about the business model canvas and linking segments to financials. And then in webinar 8, we'll talk about financial interpretations and compliance and funding requirements. And then, of course, as I mentioned in webinar 9, we are going to have those business presentations and really ending off this amazing series with an absolute bang. And so before we get into today's session, I think, Portia, maybe it's appropriate for us to just do a little bit of a recap of what we spoke about in the last webinar that we were together. And as usual, I know you've got a couple of entrepreneur spotlights. And of course, congratulations to everybody. And I think well done to everybody just for being part of the program, for showing up every week, for doing the assignments that have been allocated to you. It's really, really, on a journey like this, you are responsible for the inputs and the outputs will come. The results will come if you just continue putting in the work. All right. And so we know that right now things are a little bit difficult, but you just need to keep pushing through. All right. So today we're going to be talking about credit, types of credit and scams. We're going to touch on scams in a little bit more depth. Then we're going to talk about savings and investments. We're going to talk about finance and mental health. And of course, as usual, we have a guest speaker who is going to share a wealth of wisdom with us as usual. And I can assure you, you are in for some really good advice today. And so we will introduce him a little bit later. As usual, we will end up with assignments, some announcements, and just some questions and answers. So do save your questions for the end. And remember, you can type them in the chat or in the Q&A facility on the screen. Today, we won't have a group activity, so no breakout into webinar rooms today, but we've got quite a bit of content to get through. And so without further delay, let's get into it. Portia, so I know right now, it really is a little bit of a tough season for entrepreneurs in South Africa. You know, there's so much happening that is beyond our control. There's so much happening that comes and almost puts obstacles in the way of entrepreneurs getting to what it is that we're trying to do. And so how do we navigate the season that we're in right now? I think you can share some really good words of wisdom here.
Yeah, I think it's like, planning versus reality. I was just saying, I planned the session that my laptop is okay, it's plugged in and then I just saw my screen doing that. So that was reality, the universe having its own plans with my laptop. So while we're coaching, I think I'm going to reference this to the coaching sessions that we did with the guys. But generally, as entrepreneurs, we go through this, and then we get frustrated, we want to quit. But I want to just thank all the guys that avail themselves for the coaching sessions. And I think we as coaches, me and Nokpila, we really experienced something. We learned a lot from these sessions. And one of the things that really stood out for me and that really came out from all these sessions is that it's important to plan. And I think we've been talking about let's set goals, let's plan, and we have to plan. We don't have a choice, especially if you're running businesses. And I'm a great advocate of planning, but it doesn't mean that things will always go according to plan. You planning that you're going to make money, I'm going to make this much, and it doesn't happen. Or you don't even make money the whole week, or for 2 weeks, you don't make money. And I know it's difficult. And I think it's one of the things we're going to talk about today. One of our topics today will be about mental health. So you should all know that you are not alone. You will see the guy on top there. The road looks very straight and you can see the goal. The flag is where the goal is. So the road looks very easy, simple. He can ride his bicycle easy. and then you go to the bottom. There's, as much as you've planned, the universe has its own plan. That's reality there, So you're thinking you have planned, but there's obstacles, there's holes, there's cracks, so those are the distractions that happen. You get distracted, you get sidetracked, you change your mind, you fall into that hole. So the only thing I could say to people, please guys, don't give up. Stand up, dust yourself, say, I'm here, I can do this again, and figure out how you can get back on track again. Yeah. So don't give up, guys. And I know it's almost end of the year, all of us are exhausted. But please, also when things are hard, just get some support. We are here as coaches for now until December. And also get a support structure from home. It's either your spouse, your mom, a mentor, an advisor, a friend, and always talk to someone when you fall down. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Karen.
I think one of the realities as well, Portia, when it comes to entrepreneurship is when you get to this time of the year, employees that are in jobs, they have that sense of security. And so right now they're planning their December bonuses that they're expecting and how they're going to be paying off debts. And as entrepreneurs, things are starting to slow down. And so there's a whole different burden that comes to entrepreneurs at around this time. And so again, I just want to reiterate what Portia said. It's so important not to give up, guys. It's important to plan as best you can. And as much as you cannot control the situation and you cannot control what's happening around you, you can control your response to the situation. And so it's very important that you find the help that you need, take care of your mental health, make sure that right now you stay focused, and we are going to get there, all right? And so we just need to keep going. Let's get into today's topic, and we're going to start off with credit. And so when it comes to credit, guys, we have to understand what credit is, all right? And the very first thing to understand about credit is that credit is borrowing or accessing goods and services with the agreement to pay within an agreed time period with interest, all right? So interest is the cost of borrowing money. Now, we know that there are different types of credit, all right? Obviously, there are smaller types of credit, and then there's credit that we take for big purchases. So an example you'll see on the left of the screen there, some smaller credits would be things like personal loans or micro loans, credit cards and student loans. And then of course there's credit for big purchases like mortgage, bonds, when you're purchasing that house or purchasing that car. And then of course we do know that when it comes to credit, there is secured and unsecured credit, all right? And so secured credit is when you're making a loan or you're getting credit that the bank can repossess if they need to recover what you still owe, all right? So for example, that would be things like a car or a house. And then there's unsecured credit, and those are normally things like the short-term loans, those personal loans where the interest is often lower because it is unsecured. Portia, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. I also wanted to say, you have to really check if you really need the item that you want to take credit for. If you can budget more carefully and rather save and buy that item. I think I did that not long ago. I said, I'm not doing higher purchase. I'm going to save up some money, put a deposit for this item that I want, and then I'll just have like 2 or 3 payments towards it. And you save money like that because with higher purchase, there's interest, so you pay more. So also check your interest rates and fees, and then do not rush into signing, guys. Before you sign, can you please read, when it's credit, how much interest am I going to pay? If it's a credit card, okay, they're saying 5.5%. Am I going to be able to afford this? If I spend 10,000 of this credit card, 5.5% of that, can I be able to afford that? Because I still have other things to pay for, like food and, all the necessities. Check that you can afford the total payment and that you can afford the monthly installments along with all other costs in your monthly budget. Yeah.
So what was that item you saved up for, Portia? Is it those diamond earrings you're wearing today?
No. Actually, a nice new big bed.
Nice. Nice one. Okay, and I think the last point on the slide here is that you actually can ask to take the pre-agreement home to read, guys. So often when we take out credit, we feel under pressure. They've just said yes, and then you just sign, and you don't realize that you are signing your life away. So you have the right to ask to take it home and read it at home. And then another point I think would be great to throw in here is bear in mind that interest rates change. We've literally just experienced an interest rate increase in the last couple of weeks. And so the Reserve Bank pushed up interest rates. And so now your credit card repayments are a little bit higher, your bond repayments, your car repayments, all of those have gone up. So very important to take all of those into account when it comes to taking credit.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at the concept of good credit versus bad credit. Can you do that, Darren?
Yeah, sure. So bad credit is if you are financing unnecessary luxuries, okay? Again, back to the point of, do you really need it, okay? Again, also bad budgeting may lead you to bad credit. So if you didn't plan for it, sometimes what happens is you now end up finding yourself having to borrow because you didn't plan. And so that's why I remember in the very beginning where we spoke about budgeting, this is where this comes to play as well. If you budget and if you are planning properly, you are most likely not to find yourself in a position where you have to make some bad credit choices. And then of course, items which are consumed, leaving you with nothing to show for the money that you've spent. Those parties, or those unnecessary trips that you don't necessarily need, that outfit that you go buy on credit so that you look good at the funeral. Those are examples of bad credit choices.
Yeah, and I think we all want a car, hey? Sometimes I feel like it's a luxury, but sometimes it is important to have a car to move around. But if you cannot afford, cannot buy it. Yeah. So let's talk about balloon payments. A residual or balloon payment is a lump sum payment that needs to be made to the financier at the end of the loan term after all regular monthly payments have been made. Yeah. So when you receive credit, it's very important that you pay on time and always communicate with your companies or banks that you owe. Remember that if you borrow from a registered lenders, which the NCR makes provision for debt review and counseling. So I know sometimes people ask, what is debt review? So debt review is really a process that helps customers who are struggling to meet their debt obligations. So a debt counselor will approach your creditors for you on your behalf and makes payment arrangements, reducing your payment to a manageable amount monthly. Because let me say if we're paying 1,000 rands a month, and then you ended up struggling, or you maybe change jobs and you're not earning the same amount and now you cannot afford to pay, you get into debt review, and then they give you a counselor, and that counselor will talk to you and say, okay, how much can you afford? And then you say, I can afford only 400 rand. And then they'll go and talk to your creditors. Yeah. But I want to just say something, Darren. There's also the pros to the advantages to debt counseling. So when you're in debt counseling, creditors cannot take action against you. So people don't know that, so they don't answer their phones when they're in debt, and the banks are calling, or companies are calling, or retailers are calling. So there's no permanent record of having undergone debt counseling. It will never be there. There's no record at all. There's only one monthly repayment to be made. Your budget will meet your basic needs first before provision is made for debt, and you will never pay more money than you can reasonably afford. So guys, if you have issues with debt, please answer your phone and get a debt counselor. There is a fee obviously that you pay towards that. And then there are also disadvantages to debt counseling. So you're not allowed to have more credit while undergoing debt counseling, which I don't think it's a disadvantage. What do you think, Derek?
I think it's absolutely necessary, because the fact that you are undergoing debt counseling is exactly the reason why you shouldn't be getting into more debt right now. And I think it's almost to relieve you for that season, so that you can get out of debt and then start afresh.
Let's start afresh, yeah. And your debts might take long, obviously, to pay, because now you're paying less. As a result of these smaller payments each month. It's important to get a credit report to find out how bad your credit score is. And this can help you decide whether you need guidance from a debt counselor or whether you will work on improving your score by yourself. And I think I've gone through this over 2 years, and I've learned, I have an app where I check my score, and it gives me a notification that please check your score. So I check my score all the time. And it really, and I've gone through debt review and debt counseling. So this really, it was an experience for me, and it helped me, and I'm out of it now.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Portia. So guys, sometimes when you have to take credit, we know that not everybody can afford to save up and not everybody can afford to do things with cash. And so there are times where you do find yourself having to access credit. And when you do, very important that you pay on time, all right? As much as you can and as far as you can, always strive to pay those debts on time. Then pay at least the minimum installment showing on your statement, all right? And then if you do run into trouble paying, contact the company that you owe immediately. It's always better to be proactive instead of reactive. And so when you see that things are a little bit difficult, make contact ahead of time, and you're going to actually be saving yourself a whole lot of trouble. And again, if you borrow from registered lenders, you can go for the debt counseling or debt review, which is something that Portia just touched on. So I think right now it's also very good to be aware of the fact the fact that we've come out of this whole period with COVID-19, all right? A lot of times registered lenders right now are actually very sensitive to the state of the economy, and especially for entrepreneurs. And so they are aware that people are battling to pay and keep up with their payments. And so they are actually much more gracious right now in giving and extending some of that grace for you to be able to catch up, or maybe lower some installments and make some arrangements. So please, as Portia said, make every effort to contact them ahead of time so that you don't find yourself having to avoid calls and run away from your creditors. Okay, and then Portia touched on credit profiles, but basically in the country we have credit bureaus, all right? And so credit bureaus basically record our credit behavior. And so if you've taken any form of credit, the chances are you are on the credit bureau and they are keeping track of how you perform as a consumer. All right, and so they check things like, do you pay on time, how much debt you have. And so when you apply for new credit or buy something on credit, new credit providers will review your credit profile, which is what Portia spoke about, to see if you are eligible for more credit and then determine what the interest rate is.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if many people know this, but you can do like once a year, you can actually check your credit profile for free. All right, so you can call any of the credit bureaus in South Africa, give them your ID number. Sometimes you need to register, but at least once a year, you are entitled to a free credit report that you do not have to pay for. And it's so worthwhile to get that. So as Portia said earlier on, she checks her score on a regular basis. It's because she knows what a credit profile looks like. All right, and so very, very important that you do that. Also, by checking your credit profile, that's how you discover if there's been any fraudulent activity. Sometimes you may have lost an ID and somebody's gone and opened an account somewhere in your name that you didn't even know about, all right? And so your credit profile is going to be a great way for you to be able to see, okay, but actually I never had an account here. And so then you can dispute that account, you can dispute that debt and have that removed from your credit profile. You do not want to find yourself in a position where you are applying for a home loan, or you are trying to buy a car, or trying to make a really, really important credit application and then discover that you had a gym contract for 49 Rand that wasn't paid 18 years ago, and there's an adverse listing on the credit bureau for you, okay? So that's the reason why, as Portia says, it's so important to check our credit profiles. Anything else you want to add there, Portia?
No, I'm happy. I just want, because I know that a lot of people are really worried, when your phone, I see a lot of people when the phone rings, they're like, so please guys, don't do that. Talk to the people that you owe and make arrangements. It's very important. Otherwise it becomes a big problem, so that's all I can say. Yeah.
Very important. And then very important also is to constantly be checking up on what the state of your debt is. So calculate how much you owe. All right, on the screen right now is a great way for you to break it up. And so often we don't record everything that we know we owe to people. Okay, and so break it up like this. And so, we've got formal and retail, that's our banks or advances or any clothing stores. So anything that is official, that you've got an account for. Then you need to take into account your informal debt as well. Unregistered lenders, if you've got an account at the spaza shop because you send the kids every day for bread and milk and they just put it on, they just write it down, make sure that you know about that. And then, of course, even friends and family, you've borrowed that 1,000 Rand from your sister, you need to record it so that you can pay it back as well. All right. Portia, you still owe me 300 Rand, isn't it? You have it on your list there.
This takes me back to the module that we did, the first one, when we talked about budgeting and communicating about finances.
Yeah.
This also takes me back there, like the passive, assertive and aggressive. I was just thinking about that, that, and usually these the people, when they call you, these companies and retailers, they're actually very nice. Yeah, so yeah, because they want their money back, so they are nice. So I like the approach that they use when they asking for their money. Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right, and so we have touched on this in terms of over-indebtedness, but basically just to define what over-indebtedness is, all right? So over-indebtedness is where you find yourself in a position where once you've paid everything at the end of the month, you just don't have anything left to survive, all right? That means that you are over-indebted. You have too much debt, all right? And sometimes people don't even realize this. Or you are borrowing here to pay here, or you have to decide, okay, this month I'm going to skip this one, and I'm only going to be able to pay these three, all right? That is an indication that you are over-indebted, all right? And so, or you find yourself with more month than money at the end of the month, okay? Those are all signs that you are over-indebted, and that might mean that you need to see a debt counselor. And so a debt counselor will basically draft a budget with all your essential living expenses and then negotiate affordable payment plan with your creditors. Portia, I know you touched on this. Is there anything else that you want to add while we're on this topic here?
I was saying you should worry if you borrow money to pay somebody else. You're not using your own money to pay your debts, then that's a problem, because it means every month you'll be going to a loan shark, or you'll be applying for a loan, or you'll be borrowing money from friends and family. Yeah, so you should know that that's a problem. You can't use someone's money to pay for your own debt. You're supposed to be using money from your own budget. Yeah. So I think that's a problem, and it becomes a recurring thing, and then it happens for years and years, and then you find people living in the street. Yeah, it's a really big problem. Yeah.
All right. Next up, let's talk a little bit about saving and investing. All right. A very, very important topic. One that is often shied away from, especially when everyone is just trying to survive. We don't think about savings. And so it's very important that we do touch on this as well. And so savings, the definition of saving is really the act of delaying immediate spending until you accumulate enough to spend on something more worthwhile in the future. All right. And so basically savings is money that you set aside for things you need to pay for in the future or in the near future. All right. And so I think it comes back to the example you made earlier on, Portia, where you knew, okay, I need this new bed. Instead of going and taking out an account or buying it on credit, you rather decided to save for it. So that's a typical example. It's delaying the notification, sleeping on that old bed for another 3 months, but knowing that by the time you've saved a couple of thousand rands per month, you're able to now buy it cash and not owe anybody, and also get it at its true value, I guess, yeah?
Yeah, true.
Then when it comes to investing, investments are made for longer periods, okay? And that enables you to achieve the power of compounding and growth that is above inflation and tax. Okay, so saving is most times short to medium term, and investment is obviously with a long-term vision or long-term goal in mind. And so you should have savings for the short term, and you should have investments for medium to long-term goals.
So so it's like you need to buy financial assets and put money in financial instruments for a specific time period in order to make more money and grow your wealth. You invest in order to make more money than you originally invested. So, but if you take your money and you put it under the pillow, 300 rand, then you come back after 3 months, it will be 300 rand because you put it under the bed. Okay, so you want to earn a profit or grow your wealth. You need to be willing to leave your money invested for a reasonable period to grow. That could be 5 to 10 years or more. Yeah, and I think, with this group is very young, Darren. If they start saving now, I mean, by the time they're 60, they'll have a good lump sum of money, So I think it's nice, because I wish I had attended a course like this when I was younger. I could have maybe made different decisions because but I think this helps, because even when I was just reading this content and doing the slides, I was like, I wish I knew all this. Yeah, so it's guys, start now, and these financial instruments for investing or assets include shares, your property, bonds, and cash. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so when it comes to investing, Portia has already touched on this. So let's talk about some of those financial instruments. And I love that our guest on today's webinar is going to be talking about them. quite a little bit more in depth. But basically, when it comes to shares, shares are also called stocks, right? And so if you buy shares, you are buying part or a portion of ownership in a company. And so companies issue shares to raise money to grow their businesses, which are then bought by investors on the stock market like the JSE. All right, so it basically means you are like you own a small portion of that company because you've invested in that company. That's if you are purchasing shares. Then another one is bonds. And so a bond is basically a financial tool that is used by governments or municipalities. And so in essence, what's happening is you are borrowing them some of your money so that they can invest it, and then you earn a portion of the profit from the bonds.
Yeah, and you can also invest in property by buying a physical buy-to-let property where you become a landlord and find tenants. You can also invest in property by putting some money in property fund or a real estate investment trust, or properties including commercial, office blocks, industrial and retail, or shopping centers.
And as we mentioned, our guest today is going to talk quite a little bit more in depth about that. And then of course there's investing in cash as well. Portia, do you want to touch on this one quickly?
Yeah. So investing in cash could mean investing in high interest accounts such as fixed deposits. And I know that our guest will speak to that at the bank, or money market accounts. A lot of people I think do money market. I do money market accounts. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So cash is easy. And I think for small businesses that you getting cash. So you need to know where your cash goes. So maybe you must start thinking about that or speak to a financial advisor.
Cool. Guys, then very important is to always think about diversification, all right? I'm sure you would have heard the saying, don't have all your eggs in one basket, okay? And so it's very important that when you start getting into investing, that you start diversifying. And it's actually advisable to speak to a financial advisor and get some good advice on what would be the best way for you to invest money, especially when you come into a lump sum of money. You know, you get that contract, you get that tender, and you end up making a really good profit. All right, speak to a financial advisor so that you know, should I be investing in a unit trust, or should I be pooling my money together in a unit trust fund or collective investment scheme. Very, very important that you know what you're getting into so that we don't see you on, I believe.
And then they talk about unit trust growth. And there they talk about three things: capital gains, dividends, and interest. So with capital gains, it's when you invest in a unit trust. So you buy units based on the current value. The units are valued in line with the price in the market at that time, which is the net asset value. When you sell your unit trust, if the net asset value has gone up, you will make a capital gain. And then there's dividends. If your unit trust fund invest in shares, you can earn dividends from those shares. And then when you invest, you can choose to have those dividends paid to your bank account or reinvested in your fund. So you can leave it there. But if you need the money, you can actually withdraw it. So if you reinvest, the number of units you own will increase. And then there's interest. So interest is the fee a borrower pays for using someone else's cash. So unit trust invest in a variety of contracts that bind borrowers to pay interest. So they're making money using your money. And then Derek, we can touch on retirement.
So before we get into retirement, let me just see where we are. Because I want to get to some of the comments in the chat quickly. So maybe let's pause for a moment and just get to some of the questions and comments in the chat, because it's really going crazy in the chat here. A couple of people here saying, love the session, very helpful. That was Non Caniso saying that there was quite a few questions and comments on the issue around debt. Portia, so if you can just help me here. Especially around credit profiles, which is a great one I wanted to tackle there. So here somebody was saying, may I ask why they usually say that in order to qualify to take home loans, you need to have previously taken credit or have a credit record? Right, that's a very good question. And so that's the reason why we said it's so important that you keep track of your credit profile, check your credit score, because when you are applying for credit, they want to see that you have a track record and a history of paying on time, of maintaining your payments, and of not being over indebted, all right? That is why the credit bureaus record all of your activity, all of your, especially your credit activity, so that future lenders can make an assessment and decide if you are trustworthy to borrow money, right? And so that's why if you are now applying for a home loan, but you've never had any form of debt, it's a high risk to that lender, because they can't see, okay, Portia at least had a cell phone contract here that she pays on time, all right? And so it is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, you're encouraged not to get into debt, but on the other hand, you're encouraged to get debt so that you can prove that you are credit worthy. And so that's why it's so important that, as we said earlier on, when you have to take out credit, you make informed decisions. You know what you're getting into, you evaluate the situation, and be strategic about it. So if you know that you are doing it so that you can qualify for credit later on, find a way to make sure that you get maybe small credit, pay on time all the time. Like we said, pay on time, pay at least the minimum installment all the time, and make sure that you don't default on your payments, so that you establish a good credit record and, of course, a good credit score. And then these days, guys, there are so many ways and so many companies that give information about how you can improve your credit score. What are good ways to maintain or to increase your credit score? And so it's worthwhile going onto some of the websites of the credit bureaus and just exploring that information. But again, even programs like these, and I can see some of the comments saying this is so useful today, because these are topics that we don't often hear about, we don't often touch on. And so as a result, we don't know these things. Okay, Portia, any other comments there that caught your attention?
Darren, I wanted to say, you see, with also the app that I use, like it gives me an offer. So I was also bad, you know, like the other lady asked about the credit thing, and Nelisi asked. So they gave me an offer. They said, if you want to improve your credit, these are the offers that we're giving you. They gave me at different types of offers. It was like a clothing account. I need to open a clothing account, or I need to open a credit card, you know. And then I did that. I tried both, and then I got the credit card. And then I saw my score going high. My score, just like after a few weeks, it went high. After I started paying those little amounts towards the credit card. So it does help, really. So people must just try and get these different. There's a lot of different apps out there. Just try and see, and then you can, and they have all your information. I didn't have to punch anything. I punched my ID, and I'm like, oh, these people even have all my addresses, that every house I've ever lived in. You know, they've got all the addresses, they've got all the accounts I have, or anything that I'm paying for. You know, your contracts, your MTN, my Wi-Fi even showed up. Like, okay, this is the Wi-Fi that I'm paying every month. So guys, this is really important information.
And I think so many times when people hear credit card, they automatically think of a credit card as debt and don't realize that that is actually a way for you to establish a good credit record, a great way for you to improve your credit score. And for instance, I know that if you, for instance, transferred your money into your credit card and use your credit card on a daily basis, paying it all back right away, you are able to increase your credit score, and it's seen as much better than just using that debit card where you have all of those fees. So really, guys, we need to empower ourselves and get ourselves full of knowledge so that we know the best way to be navigating these things, because it can benefit you much more than it's supposed to harm you. All right, let's move on and talk about investing for retirement, guys. And so when you get to retirement age, the goal is that you want to be able to maintain the lifestyle that you have prior to retirement, all right? And there are added health and medical costs that are required. And so it's very, very important that we consider retirement. Don't think that I'll deal with it when I get there, all right? Before you know it, it shows up, and then you find yourself in a position where you need to look for a spot in an old age home because you didn't plan, or you now become a burden to your children because you didn't plan. And so very, very important that you start considering retirement at an early age, so that you start as early as possible so that you can benefit from compounding growth. You know, if you started saving now, you've got more time as opposed to starting to save 10 years before you hit retirement. And so if we look at the screen right now, you'll see here, most financial planners encourage that you save at least, what's that figure there, Portia? Sorry, my screen is cutting it off. If you can just read over here for us.
Yeah, they say most financial planners encourage that you save 15% of your salary towards retirement. And according to Sanlam benchmark 2017, if you only start saving at 40, you should save 33%. That's me there, Darren. You may invest for retirement through retirement annuities, which is called an RA, or employer-based pension or provident fund. Yeah. So if you resign and or are retrenched or fired, it is important to preserve your retirement saving, transferring them to your new employer fund or an RA instead of cashing them. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. So guys, do you see that? If you start in your 20s or your 30s, you're saving about 15% of your salary. The later you start, the more of your salary. And then again, it puts that extra financial burden. Imagine having to take a whole third of your salary because you need to save it for retirement. That gives you less to work with every month. And that is the reason why it's so important to start early. All right. And then let's get into scams for that. So we know these days that so many people fall prey to scams, and it is extremely scary to think what's happening right now because people are so desperate. And so we need to start talking about how do we identify if something is a financial scam. Take it away, Portia.
Yeah, but I think it happens every day. Hey, this morning I got a weird SMS. So I think it's just a thing that's happening every day, especially on our phones. You just receive an SMS that you just don't understand. So fake credit companies may take you through a credit application and then ask you to pay an upfront fee. There's nothing like that. You can't apply for a loan and then you are asked to pay for an upfront fee. That's you must just ask yourself a question there. Don't sign anything. And then once the customer pays the fee, no loan is granted and the company disappears. So this has been happening to a lot of people because they want the loan, So check that the company you are seeking credit from is registered with the NCR. Guys, we've got Google. We are young, we are advanced, we are futuristic. Let's go into Google and find out information beforehand. Even before you visit. I always say even before visiting a company, just find out first before you even get there. So if you opt for an unregistered lender, there is no recourse in case things go badly. And we'll still talk about that later, about recourse, because where are you going to go to if you can't even find these people anymore, Do not click on links sent by SMS or email requesting details such as banking information, ID number, and address. So fake credit companies may take you through this credit application and ask you for money. So please, I know as small businesses, we probably say, I want money, so let me try, So please guys, don't, just be cautious online. Yeah.
Guys, what a couple of the biggest scams right now that small businesses are becoming victims of are these fake requests for quotations or a tender that you get out. So you'll get this email that looks like it's coming from Department of Defense, and they're asking you, we need an urgent quote for face masks, all right? And you think, okay, great, and then you click on it and you're trying to see, okay, what is it about? And before you know it, they've hacked your computer or they've hacked your cell phone, and now they have access to your personal information. And so very, very important that you are vigilant, all right? These are on the increase. I get 20 requests for quotations per day, knowing very well that I have not even registered on a database for that department, or I know that I've never done any work with that department, or I know that I'm not even in that line of business. All right, and so for instance, the email address will say Department of Defense, but if you click on the email address to see, it says info@dfdge.net. And you can see this is not a legitimate email address, okay? So we need to be vigilant and we need to be checking out for those things, because you do not want to put yourself in a position where you've been scammed and you cannot even access your own bank accounts and all your money is gone. All right, let's pause there for a moment and let's put up the quiz up to this point. So team, if you could launch the poll right now. Here's a great one by McDonald's saying, on the issue of debt, this is true. Answering calls is important. After not having clients for almost 4 months, I couldn't pay my cell phone contract and other debt. For example, my cell phone contract was suspended for 3 months to allow relief until I was able to pay again. So not answering calls will only pile up debt and affect your credit profile. So there you go, guys.
And then I see Lisibana saying, on investment, I prepare to invest in the growth of my business. Yes, Lisibana. Okay. And then Anomsa is saying, is it possible to check your credit score by phone? Yes, the app is, you can use your phone. Yeah.
Quite a few people saying, these get rich quick schemes, dangerous ones there, yeah?
Oh, that's nice. Tawan Kosi says, I personally use Time Bank. goal saving. It has a 7% interest per annum.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's nice. And then somebody says, LOL Sabawell, that tender. Love this session, very helpful.
Absolutely.
And yeah, Pauline says, Nelisiwe, this will help us to do things differently from now on. Yes, guys.
All right, next up, we need to talk about finances and mental health, a very, very important issue. And again, I feel like it's come so much at the right time because, Portia, I know you were sharing about what's been happening in some of the coaching sessions. We know a couple of people really, really experiencing the most and going through the most in their businesses right now. And so very, very important that we address issues around mental health when it comes to our finances. And so obviously money is just so important, and mental health is the state of our emotional, psychological and social well-being. And so poor mental health affects how we handle stress and how we relate to others and make decisions. All right, when you are mentally well, you're better equipped to handle life's challenges. That's just a fact. All right, it's really hard to be confident when you are broke. It's really hard to make good decisions when you are stressed out about money. It's really hard to be focusing on the important relationships in your life if you are stressed out about finances and money. And so that is the reason why we're addressing these issues. And so self-awareness means that we are aware of our feelings and our triggers, both positive and negative. All right, if you know that when it gets to the end of the month and there's no money, you are stressed out, it means you need to put things in place so that you're able to navigate that period, that you're able to deal with things that come up around that time, so that you know what triggers you and you don't find yourself in positions where you end up making decisions that you regret, taking actions that you regret later on. And so I love the part that says when you are mentally well, you are just better equipped to handle life's challenges. All right, and so that's why it's important for us to focus and make sure that we are taking care of our mental health as far as our finances are concerned.
Yeah, and really money is like, I don't know, it's an integral part of our everyday lives. You eat, it's money. You drink water, it's money. You put a pinch of salt on your egg, it's money. You know, everything that we do every day has to do with money. So if you don't have it, you're definitely going to stress. Yeah. So money is an integral part of our everyday lives, whether you're a student receiving a bursary. I know I was talking to my daughter about that because I'm saying, I know you're receiving a stipend from the bursary, but you need to still save some of it. You know, you can't spend all of it. Or you're a newly employed person, you're a graduate, money plays a central role. And I think with us as business people, money is just everything, you know, and we can't control some of the situations like we spoke about earlier. So money is usually linked to emotions, including joy. So if you get it, like, yay, I'm so happy, I'm excited, I made it, I made 30,000 Rand, and it's success. And then there's frustration. When it doesn't come, we get frustrated. And if we use or misuse it, or we don't use it in the correct way, then we also feel guilty. We suffer anxiety and stress. But it is not money in itself that causes these emotions. It's not the money. It's our personal understanding of what money means to us and how we respect money. You know, so we need to respect money. So we can avoid us getting to that anxiety and stress and guilt and frustration if we do the things that we've been talking about from module 1, you know, budgeting, recording our finances and all that. We might avoid this anxiety and stress, because if we're not recording, you know, you get a surprise. And I don't know if you watched the program called I Blew It. People win millions, and then one day they go and withdraw and there's nothing, because they're not checking those receipts. Every time a person draws the money, they throw the slip in the bin until the money is gone, because there's no responsibility, accountability, there's no recording, there's no budgeting. Yeah. So financial stress can lead to anxiety, depression, behavioral changes like withdrawing from social activities. You know that when you don't want to get off the bed or you don't want to get out of the house, you must know there's a problem. That's one of the signs of depression or anxiety or stress. And then you also get physical symptoms like stomach cramps, headaches. I know other people get a panic attack. You know, so if you experience any of these side effects related to financial stress, be sure to talk to someone. You need to talk to someone. Yeah, and also I found something, Darren, when I was just reading about mental health. They say there's 7 ways to help you manage financial stress. during trying times. And this was for entrepreneurs. Actually, I was reading this part of mental health, but it was just talking about how entrepreneurs are stressed. So they say you must prioritize. Yeah.
Before you get into it, guys, you may want to take notes about the 7 steps that Portia's going to mention now. So if you are writing down notes, I think these are worth just jotting down while she's going through it. Take it away, Portia.
Yeah, so I'll just be slow there so that you can be able to write. So it's just make sure you prioritize what you can control. Just like I showed you that example of plan and reality. There are things that you cannot control. You can plan, but things may not go your way. So you need to just start over and do it again. So prioritize what you can control. Things that you can't control, leave them. And I think this it's not even only about business, even in your personal lives, there are things you just can't control and there's nothing you can do about them. So you work on the things that you can control and then find ways to earn more money. And this I like because I've seen most entrepreneurs, even in this group, I've seen people when I'm talking to them during the coaching session, they mention things like, I know this person is doing poultry farming. And then later in my session, I hear, I also braid hair. And I'm like, why are you braiding hair? No, I like it, but except for that, I think I need extra cash. So I like with entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs always see opportunities. They always find gaps. So do that. Find another side hustle. If you know that, okay, my business pays me late or, things are still not stable, try another side hustle. Then always pay essential bills. That's the third one. So the first one was prioritize what you can control. Second one, find ways to earn more money, your side hustle. And then the third one is pay essential bills, the most important bills. Let's not go partying before we pay our rent, our school fees, we buy our toiletries. All these important things come first. Then we party after, all right? And I know I'm talking to young people, so I know you're already thinking it's Friday. And then save money. We've been talking about savings, guys. And when this came, I was like, oh, this is interesting because we're talking about saving and investment. And the fourth thing here is save money if you can. And I've heard people say, when you say you need to save this much, says, but my money is too little. Okay, I have 100 Rand, save the 20 Rand then, So you need to save some of your money. And then I think the fifth one is track your money. And we've been talking about that forever. And I think I'm the one who talks more about this. Maybe people are even tired. Track your money. And then also your saving progress. How much have I saved this far? Let me go check my savings. And nowadays with the banking app, you can even see, so I know I've got a share account. I go and look at my shares. How much do I have? In my phone, as I'm sitting, nobody will even know that I'm checking all my savings and my shares. So you can do this on your phone with your banking app. And then talk to your lenders. You see, it goes back again to what we're talking about today. Talk to the people that have borrowed you money. Don't run away, McDonald's. And then consult with financial professionals. All right? Always consult. If you don't understand something, go to the bank, or if maybe you've got an insurance with Old Mutual, go to Old Mutual, to your financial advisor and ask the questions. I want to start saving, I want a retirement, consult so that you know what's happening. But usually when you've got problems, financial issues, it's good to go to the bank, and seek advice. Yeah. So also there's an organization called the South African Depression and Anxiety Group that one can reach out to when you're feeling overwhelmed. I know they get a lot of calls from people who are just feeling like, I can't do this anymore. This life is not mine. They get calls like that. And it's called SADC, and they have that mental health line. I know it's 011-234-4837. And you can also Google them and see the work that they do and also see where they are, because they're all over South Africa. But guys, this is a serious issue. Don't take it lightly. I know we always say, hey, get stressed, it's easy to say that, but there's other people who go through it very badly. They even get the symptoms, they lose their mind, they talk to themselves. So don't get yourself here. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are the ones who are really going through a lot of financial stress. I think also it's because of the lockdown and then the load shedding. There's a lot of things happening in South Africa right now that affecting our businesses, and obviously that's going to cause stress. Yeah. Yes, Darren.
All right. So sometimes our influencers or our role models growing up. Sorry, it's like a police helicopter flew over there. So sometimes, our influencers or our role models growing up can also shape how we consider and use money. And I know, especially in South Africa, many of us grow up and we don't see good financial examples, right? Or we see bad habits like lack of savings. We see things like over indebtedness. We grow up in homes where there's over indebtedness all of the time, and so we don't see people being open when it comes to communication about money. And so as we journey into managing our own money, we can learn and adopt more effective ways of handling money. That is why we have programs like these. That is why you've signed up for programs like these, because the whole goal of this is to help all of us to be able to make better financial decisions in our personal lives and even in our business lives. All right, and so very, very important that we be honest and we reflect on why is it that we have the relationship with money that we have. All right, and then be honest about it. And most of us have the opportunities now to be able to break those cycles so that we don't find ourselves in similar positions to our parents and the generations before, and that we make better decisions for the generations to come. All right, and so very, very important that we look and we understand the context when it comes to how we feel and how we relate to money.
Yeah. And I think we did touch on this earlier again in the program about the importance of communicating about money. I think it was one of our topics, if you remember, and it was that same thing you mentioned about passive, assertive, aggressive. So I think this was our first webinar when we looked at budgeting, and we're explaining that, you remember?
Absolutely.
So we may think that possessions and material things that we own can make us happy and equate success to these. It's not true, hey? However, we are more than our bank account or job or title. Yeah. So if you take these things and you say, "Oh, I'm a CEO of, this company," and then something happens, they dismiss you, and then you're like frustrated because now you feel like you're nobody else. You're not a CEO, you're a human being. So I think we just need also the branding. With us young people, I've seen something. If I'm wearing something and it doesn't have an expensive logo here, then I feel like I'm less of a person. Yeah, so I'm just happy I'm not one of those people, and nowadays we've got kids, our own kids saying, I want this brand, and these things are so expensive. It's so expensive to buy that sneaker, it's like someone's salary, really, guys. So these are the things that actually even get people to stress. Yeah, so we need to always remember our uniqueness and our contribution to the world and to those around us, and the value we bring, regardless of our net worth. It doesn't matter how much you've got. So
net worth does not equal your self-worth, all right? Yes. So you are more than the house that you live in. You are more than the car that you drive. You are more than the job title. You are more than the brands that you wear. Focus on your uniqueness and know that who you are is much more important than what you have.
Yeah, because I realized that people who don't believe in what you're saying right now, net worth is what? You said what net worth is?
Net worth does not equal self-worth,
Yeah. So if you don't believe in that, you are going to stress every day, because as people look at you, you feel like I'm not enough. Hey, I need, and now you keep buying. You'll even buy these things all the time. So if they've seen me wearing this white jacket, tomorrow they'll see me wearing a black one, because I don't want to be seen with the same thing also. So you end up spending your money. You're trying to make yourself happy, and if you don't have those things, you're unhappy. So I can say, I think we must just talk about financial education now. So financial education helps us understand certain basics that can help us feel more in control. It helps us plan and understand processes around money. And I think this program has just been, we've just been talking about money and financial education, educating you guys about money. It helps us understand that wealth creation is a journey and not an overnight thing. So it takes a while, guys. You guys are entrepreneurs, you know this. It's going to take a while. But if you must do the right things, do the budgeting, do the recording, do the saving, do the investing, so that you get to that wealth. And it helps us reflect on our goals. So that's why we're teaching you also to write the goals. We've got the short-term goals, we've got the long-term goals. I want to see myself, I want my account to be having 10 million in 10 years. Now you need to work towards that. And if you're not saving, you're not going to get there. If you're using your money recklessly, you're not going to get there. Yeah.
Let's launch the next quiz and let's see if we can get everybody to do that there.
Yeah. Interesting. Puseletso says, I'm sinking in debts and I think I should take the first step and answer those calls. I even blocked a few. Whew. Thank you. I'm so happy that you're acknowledging and you are telling us, you're sharing this. Wow.
Yeah. You know, there's that saying, when you know better, you do better. And so it's important after today's webinar that we just do better. Just do better. Start with the smallest one, work towards paying off that smallest debt first, and that before you know it, you're going to be out of all of them completely.
And Nelisio says, mental health has proved to be the most critical topic for entrepreneurs this week. You know why? It's because the 10th of October, it's World Mental Health Day. The 10th of October. That's why, like, the whole week, people have been talking about mental health. So I think, I don't know how we did this, but it
worked out well.
It's the 14th, yeah.
Quite a few more still completing the survey. Remember, there are 7 questions. Answer all of them. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then you can click submit. Very interesting comment by Tefo saying, I think financial education should be introduced at foundation phase in schools.
Yeah, I heard that on the radio last week. They were talking about it, actually. They were asking people, what would you want to learn now? Maybe back then, you know, and then everybody was saying financial education.
All right, poll is completed and let's continue. All right, and so without further delay, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome our special guest today. His name is Mpumi Bomvana, and he has a bachelor's of, what is that? I can't see on the screen there.
A Bachelor of Commerce degree from the University of Cape Town.
Keep reading his bio for us.
Okay. So Mpumelelo Bomvana holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree from the University of Cape Town. He is a registered equity trader of the Johannesburg Securities Exchange and a registered member of the South African Institute of Financial Markets. He joined Sanlam Investment Management as a trainee portfolio manager in 2006 and successfully completed the Sanlam Investment Investor Development Program in 2007. He became a portfolio manager at Sanlam Private Investment in late 2007, a position he held until 2014. Managing the assets of high net worth individuals and institutions in excess of 3 billion, not million, okay. Mpumelelo was the executive marketing manager of Coal Procurement South Africa, a coal beneficiating and coal exporter from 2014 to 2018. He is presently the chief operations officer at Sibeko Mining, primarily focusing on the marketing and deal structuring of Sibeko Minings for the domestic and international coal markets.
Thank you so much for reading the bio. What a beautiful CV and profile there, Mpumi. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to take your bio off the screen and just put you on camera so everybody can see you live and clear and looking good. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So I think the first question is, when I see Sibeko Mining, I think of Isidingo. Is it the same Sibeko mine?
Which one? Oh, no. No. It's a different one. This one is a coal mine. I think the one that you're thinking of it's a gold mine.
A fake gold mine on TV. Yeah.
Yes.
Good to have you with us, Mpumi. So let's kick off with the discussion with what type of companies invest money or fund small businesses?
Okay, thanks for that, Darren. There's quite a number of different companies depending on the small business and where it is in the life cycle of the business. There are quite a number of companies that fund SMEs, such as your national empowerment funds. There's also business incubators, such as your Shanduka Black Umbrellas. So business incubators basically give you access to some, and they assist you with applying for finance. they also incubate your business from inception right up until a point where the business is able to be self-sustainable. So they will hold your hand from beginning right to the end, link you up with suppliers, link you up with clients, as well as financial institutions, which can then extend some kind of funding for your business. There's also venture capital funders. Venture capital funders are less demanding in terms of, they're less stringent insofar as when compared to the banks when looking for funding. But they also do then charge a much higher return on their investment that they invest in you. You also get private equity funders as well. Your private equity funders are similar to venture capital funders, but they stay and remain as part owners of your business for a longer period of time. But by the time that they leave and disinvest from your business, they leave a business which is fully functional and well operating. Okay.
Right. So when it comes to working capital, how can a company preserve and grow its working capital, particularly when it comes to small businesses and entrepreneurs?
So, there's various ways that you can do and save up on your working capital and grow it. Working capital, for those that don't understand or know it in depth, basically your working capital is how much cash you have to basically pay for your inventory, as well as your debtors, how quick you're able to retrieve money from those that owe you, as well as your credit lines, those that you buy services from or goods from, how long a time period you can get to pay off that particular debt. So I'll take it step by step. Essentially, number one, and which is key for small businesses, you need to keep your overall expenses as low as possible. So if you don't really need a cell phone contract, you can get a pay-as-you-go type of cell phone, so that you don't then use it unnecessarily. So, and then you don't need to run out and employ too many people when you yourself can do most of the work. So essentially, you need to keep your overall expenses generally low, and then you need to increase the number of days so that you have to settle some of your accounts. I know earlier on Portia touched on when you have debt, you must pay it timeously and quickly. However, in a business, yes, let me give you an example. If you are buying goods and services from let's say Pick n Pay on credit, so if you do have the option to pay off that credit line in 60 days, pay it off in those 60 days. But the longer you have the money in your own bank account to then pay other expenses, try and increase your days that you pay off your business creditor, but make sure you pay it off within the prescribed time. And then next, you need to accelerate your accounts receivable. So you basically, all the people that owe you money, you need to strive to get them to pay you back your money as quickly as possible. And then next, you need to also do your utmost best to turn your inventory over as quick as possible. So you need to sell your inventory as quick as possible by way of either by promoting the business or promoting your products, so that once you've bought the inventory, you're able to turn it around quickly so that you're able to meet all your financial obligations as well as those that you owe. And then last but not least, even through the conventional banks, if you are able to get a line of credit, get one, so that you don't then use your liquid cash that you have in your business. I hope that makes sense.
Certainly does, and some very good advice there. So let's talk about a couple of the investment vehicles. I know we touched on it very, very briefly, but you're the expert. So what is the best investment vehicle or asset classes that a growing concerned business should keep their investments in?
Okay, so yes, we've spoken at length about investments. So I'll touch on the different the different types of investments a business should do. Most importantly, a business obviously needs to be quite conservative in how you invest your money. So, you shouldn't be looking at buying, recklessly and buying shares and all those kind of things without the advice of a financial services provider, especially if you yourself do not have the experience therein. But so you need to buy and look at investing in more conservative type of assets. The most conservative asset that we have that's available within the market is a money market account. So a money market investment is the best amongst a lot of the asset classes because it's secure, it's safe. It gives you an annual rate of return of 9.6%. And that would be ideal for a business that's very conservative and wants to be operational in the long term. The next asset class that you can consider investing in is your real estate investment trust, which is your property unit trust. Now, the nice thing about your real estate investment trusts is that they are asset backed in the sense that even if they are listed on the stock market and you can buy them there, they're actually backed up by physical properties. So if you go to a shopping center or any office park, 9 out of 10 times that is owned by a property unit trust company, okay? So they're like the landlords and they get rental income on a monthly basis. That rental income becomes your yield. It's referred to as a yield. So you receive that kind of a yield on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis, depending on how soon or how often you wish to withdraw those funds, as well as your capital investment amount that you invest. So if you invest 1,000 Rand today in a property unit trust, it yields also around the 9% region. So you'll get a nice, good return on that. So you'll probably get about 18 Rand for every about 90 Rand for every 1,000 Rand that you invest. So that's a nice asset class or investment to invest in. You also get some fixed income unit trusts and exchange traded funds. There you can Google Cetrix, and they have quite a number of these kind of unit trusts that you can then consider investing in. And then we also touched on bonds. That's also a nice asset class to also invest in. Please note that I haven't mentioned shares because shares, in terms of investing for a business, they're very volatile. And unless you are going to be invested in there for about a minimum of 3 to 5 years, it really it's for those investors that are prepared to take on more risk than the average person. So if you yourself as a business are averse to taking too much risk, the ones that I've mentioned here, your money market, your property unit trusts, your fixed income unit trusts, as well as your bonds are those that you should be considering. You're more than welcome to Google them. One which I've found that most people invest in, which is very it's a nice platform for you to invest in, is for you to Google Satrix. That's Satrix. And then over there's quite a number of different funds that you can then just have a look at and familiarize yourself, and then identify which one speaks to you in your businesses. Thank you.
So Mpumi, we thank you for that. I think it really helps and especially you've given us a way to research as well so that we can learn more about what you've just spoken about. But let's talk a little bit about scams. What are some of the scams that entrepreneurs should look out for? What are some of the scams that business owners particularly should be looking out for in 2022?
Okay, so after during COVID and post-COVID, everybody's trying to make a quick dollar and a quick buck. And as Portia touched on earlier on, some people would, for yourself to be able to be wary and be able to look out and see that something is amiss. And I think yourself, Darren, you touched on it as well. If a company is a non-financial service provider looking to asking you to provide them with too much information, such as your company registration documents, your director's IDs, your banking information, your proof of res, essentially, that should basically raise a flag for you. It should be a red flag where you must do further due diligence before providing that information. As well as you also find some people that are coming along, they say they are potential investors and they're looking to invest in your business, and they require you to put up a small amount of capital or something for you to get the capital unlocked. That is most likely a scam, because if you yourself are looking for an investor will not ask you to pay something for you to get a bigger investment in. So that should be an alarm bell. So I'll basically give you an example of ourselves in our current business at Sibeko Mining, where we've run into a scam, and what kind of remedies are we looking to do. So in July, we paid a supplier, a coal supplier, on behalf of our client. We paid him about 150,000 rand. And unfortunately, we paid over that money upfront before the coal was even on the floor. 2 months later, we're still looking for the guy. He's gone underground. Basically, he runs a scam where he claims to have coal, and he asks clients to pay a 50% deposit, and then he just disappears. So how we are dealing with the matter at the moment is that we reported the matter to the authorities. So you can go and report it. You need to report it, number one, to the police. And if it's above 100,000 rand, the Hawks are also able to look into that case. Obviously, it's not guaranteed that you'll get your money back, but the first and foremost place where you need to start off is at the police station. We then got referred and got told that we should go to the court and get a letter of demand. And all of this is free, by the way. So we went to the court and received a letter of demand, sent it to the gentleman in question. And then, the wheels of justice turn quite slowly. So there are registered debt collectors out there, which you can then approach with all your corresponding information. You're not going to go to these kind of places and take this kind of recourse if you yourself have not done good record keeping of the entire transaction. So all the communication, your proofs of payment, your purchase orders, all those kind of things, keep them in a file should you find yourself scammed, so that when you are requested to present any kind of evidence or anything to back up the claim that you have against being scammed, you're able to furnish that information as quickly as you possibly can. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Scary. I see a comment coming through here saying, cool, rough, even experts are being scammed. And that's the truth, guys. It literally is, like Mpumi said, everybody wants to make a quick buck or a dollar. Look at it. Literally, just got a message on my cell phone from the post office. It says, post office, your parcel has not been delivered because you haven't paid customs duties for 12 Rand 99.
I got that too today.
And I must click on this link. It says I must click on this link, but at the bottom it's got French. And the email address comes from the email address .de, and it's Bauman, Vergen, Bondrum. Okay, guys, it's real. It's real. The scammers are real out here. Any final words? Sorry, go for it, Portia.
Yeah, I was saying I actually got that too. It says, hello, Portia, your express parcel has been delivered to a pickup point in. Collect your parcel within 24 hours. And then it has a link.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's also, maybe just to add to that, sometimes you need to also be quite wary. If something sounds too good to be true, you need to scrutinize it. At times you'll get an email which says, somebody has passed away somewhere and they've decided to leave you XYZ amount of money. Please provide your banking details and ID. When you yourself know that you have absolutely no association whatsoever with whoever's passed away, you should scrutinize that and be skeptical. Or you'll find that they say you get a message which seems as if it's coming from SARS, and you yourself know you haven't filed, and they say that you've got a tax rebate of some kind, please provide your banking details. You must scrutinize that, pick up the phone, call SARS and ask them, is that really genuine, before you furnish any kind of information like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Mpumi, we're going to ask you to stay on for a couple of questions. So guys, if you have any questions for Mpumi at this point, please type them in the chat. The first one is, maybe you can elaborate on this, Mpumi. So if you could explain a money market investment just a little bit more.
Okay, so a money market investment is basically the same as you depositing and keeping money in your bank account. Now, the difference is that with a money market account, every single bank needs to borrow money from somewhere so that they can give out loans for bonds, etc. So if you have excess money, you then go to your bank and you say, look, I'd like to invest in a money market account. It gives you a higher return because the bank keeps your funds for a longer period of time. So because, and it's preset, predefined, it can be 30 days, it can be 5 days, it can be 6 months, it can be 12 months. But the reason why you get a higher rate of interest than just keep the type of interest you get from your bank account is because you allow the bank to keep your money for longer than you ordinarily would, and you don't then just haphazardly withdraw the money. They know which day you are going to come and ask for your money back. So that's basically a money market. When I was at Sanlam, we had generally a higher rate of interest than your ordinary banks, because what we do is we'd get a money market from Investec, one from Sanlam, one from FNB, one from Standard Bank, and then we'd aggregate that so that you get a higher rate of return as you ordinarily would if you just went and invested in, let's say, for example, in an Investec money market fund. Obviously, all banks vary. So, for example, you'll find that FNB will give you 12%, Standard Bank will give you 9%. But if we combine the two, because of the pool of the funds that we have for all our clients, we're able to then generate a higher rate of interest than what you would get from Standard Bank. Yes, it's slightly lower than FNB, but now we've spread out our risk because we're not then just exposed to just one financial institution. We're exposed to quite a number of them. And if you find that any of the banks go under, God, hopefully they don't, but if they do, then you're still protected because you've spread it out over a number of banks. So, for example, if the municipality in Limpopo had put their funds, their funds in different banks as opposed to just one mutual bank called VBS, we wouldn't be having a situation where all the people that invested their funds in VBS are now out in the cold and now scrambling for their money. So that's why you do that with the money market fund. You spread your risk across different institutions and not just one, and it gives you an aggregated return. At the moment, it's sitting at 9.6%.
Great, thank you. Another question is around shares. What is the difference between penny shares and ordinary shares, and why are those shares getting less attention? What's wrong with them?
Okay, so a penny share is a share with a share price of less than R1 or something. It's basically a cheap share, a cheap price per share than your ordinary share. It will get less attention because the market perceives that its growth won't be as quick as, for instance, a ShopRite, for example. You won't get as much return from as opposed to a ShopRite. Penny shares are traded on the AltX exchange, which is the alternative exchange for small companies. So they will definitely get a lot less attention because they're not as big companies, and they are much riskier than your shares, which you'd find in the top 40. So the top 40 index is the top 40 biggest companies listed on the JSE. So obviously, if you want peace of mind, you'd pay more attention to your top 40 shares which have been around for a very long time, which pay dividends, which have trusted and tested management, as well as the procedures within their organization have been around for quite a number of years, as opposed to you then investing in a share in a small company, a penny company, which doesn't have the historic record of being of trading in the market. So that's the fundamental difference.
Great. I think let's leave it there in terms of questions. Portia, I don't know if you've seen any other questions there, but
yeah,
maybe...
there are questions. I think it's at Tabo. He says, is easy properties the same as property unit trust? I don't know if it makes sense.
I beg your pardon? Yep,
no, it says I think is it easy? I don't know. Like, I think there's a mistake there.
The same as property unit trust.
Yeah.
Okay, can I please ask you to repeat just one more time?
Yeah. Is easy properties the same as a property unit trust?
I don't know what easy properties is. Unfortunately, I haven't heard of it. But maybe what I can do.
Maybe Tabo can rephrase the question. Tabo, are you able to rephrase that question?
Yes, I wanted to ask if it's easy properties the same as property unit trust. There's easy properties, then there's easy equities. Is the same company, so they have easy equities and they also have easy properties.
But I think for now, before we do our group picture, let's do some announcements quickly. So remember, guys, our next webinar is on the 4th of November. All right, very important. So make a note of that. Same time, same place. Of course, there is an assessment that is also needs to be submitted. Portia, Mpumi, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Thank you. Apologies about that. I'm not sure. I think I was being scammed by my phone.
No problem. We wanted you to just give us your final words of encouragement to today's participants on the webinar. Okay.
Well, basically, I'd like to just inform everybody know, being an entrepreneur is the best way for somebody to, if you're sitting and you're being sorry for yourself or you're unemployed, it's the best way to employ yourself. If you're looking for a business, find something that there is a need for in the industry and in the market. And you'll grow a successful business. Obviously, look out for scams. Always save money. Save more. Try save more than you do spend. Always do strive to save and reinvest in your businesses, and that's how you'll be able to grow and have a sustainable business into the future.
Mpumi, thank you so much. Such valuable words. And I think we really enjoyed chatting to you today. I think you've given us so much to think about and really practical tips and advice as well. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us.
Okay, super. Thank you for having me.
And all the best with getting your money back from those scammers.
No,
Let me know if you want me to get the Owens to sort them out. I'm joking. Okay, guys, let's get everybody to get our videos on. If we can put everybody's videos on, we're going to take our group picture before we say goodbye and end of today's session. But what an amazing time we've had. I think this was so informative. I'm certainly feeling so much better. Earlier on we spoke about how there's just so much happening in the world of business right now. And I'm hoping that all of us on the webinar today are feeling better, feeling rejuvenated and feeling positive about our businesses again, ready to go and tackle it and make sure that our businesses work. Look at all you lovely people looking so good today. Let's wait for a couple more of you to get your videos
Bafana Tabiso, what's happening? Let's see your faces. Bali Ugupi.
Videos on.
Okay. Teboho, Onele, Nisibana.
Yellow seems to be the color among the ladies today, yeah?
Hello guys, I was still busy eating.
Who's eating?
Bafana.
Oh, Bafana.
Good to see everybody. Let's see. Anyone else going to put their camera on?
I've been traveling. I did not turn on my camera so well. I was traveling.
No problem. Good to see you, bro. Couple more. Alrighty, let's take our pictures. Everybody say cheese. Everybody say money. There we go. You're grabbing the pictures there. Everybody say feeling good.
Feeling
Feeling
good.
good.
Nice one. Guys, well, on that note, I think we're going to leave it there for today. Thank you again so much for being part of this program. I hope that you are finding as much value as what we are finding value in really presenting these programs. I think every single session has been so informative, so valuable, and we are learning so much. Again, as always, we wish you the absolute best in your businesses. We want you to succeed. We want to make sure that you are striving. And obviously, this program is here to be a support to you. And so take all of the lessons that you learn, implement it and apply it in your businesses, and you can but only succeed. The journey is tough, but you were made for it. It's the life you chose, and trust me, it's going to be worthwhile in the end. So have a great couple of weeks. We will see you all on the 4th of November for our next webinar, webinar 7. But on that note, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.